Welcome to the Success Frequency with host Alia Yasmin. Over the next hour, you're going to learn the impact in your life that results from your way of thinking. Alia and her guest will explore the best ways to achieve growth for you. Now, here's Alia.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Success Frequency. Joining me today on today's show is going to be Mauro Campagnaro. He is an experienced entrepreneur, a seasoned financial advisor, and a coach. He's also an author that's written a new book that's being released soon. Mauro, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Alia, for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world right now.
Well, it's very busy. As you know, we just recently launched the Brian Tracy co-author book, and now I've got it up on my website for sale, and just working on the paperback copy as well. So that should be up for sale really quickly as well. So it's been a very, very, very busy and exciting period of time.
That's great. That's great. How can people find the book if they're interested?
They can just go to my website, which is Campagnaro Wealth, or the way you say, which is campagnarowealth.ca. So CAMPAGNARO wealth.ca.
So Mauro, tell us a little bit about your origin, your story. What got you to this point right now?
How much time do you have?
A lot.
It's been a long journey, I guess. Let's start with the time period that I got into the world of employment, which is after university, and I worked for a few multinational companies that you're probably familiar with. I'm not going to name them here, but there's a lot of brands you may be very familiar with in the grocery space and retail. And I had I did about I want to say 15 years of that, roughly. And at some point in that journey, I decided that I had enough resources. I'd saved my money. I was very diligent about saving and investing my money. So I had enough to, venture out, and decided that I always had this desire to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know what space I was going to be an entrepreneur in, because I started my career basically investing in real estate. And the stock market, just knowing what I knew at the time about the industry, I decided to venture out and build my own company in the consumer packaged goods space. So I was a distributor. And naively, when you're out trying to do your journey from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, it's like you're in the headlights, and you really have to embrace the new way of thinking as an entrepreneur, because it is a complete mind shift. And I know you talk about a lot of this stuff too, but it's a complete mind shift, a mindset that you need to embrace as an entrepreneur, because there's only one person that's accountable for everything, and it's basically you. And that journey was very good, because it really challenged me personally and financially to really understand what I had to do to overcome many challenges and obstacles that always got put in my way. And this is every entrepreneur's journey. I know this for a fact. There is no entrepreneur that does not have a challenge. And so you really learn a lot about yourself. Now, during that journey, I was just approaching critical mass, which is the point where you are at the point where, all of a sudden the profits start to show up, and your company is now, an entity that can sustain itself, and you're not always constantly having to inject capital in some way, shape, or form. So we're about to hit critical mass, and my spouse at the time, she decided that she did not want to be part of the journey anymore. And at that point, I had the cards stacked a little bit too thin and a little bit too high.
Yeah.
and I mustered on for about 2 more years. But this is really important. And I it's funny, I listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that on the internet, and this one gentleman did talk about just having more and more conversations with more and more people, because you just don't know where the influence is going to come from.
Yeah.
So I had an IT person who coincidentally was the IT person for this other company. And he said, when I sit there with you guys talk the exact same language. It's like I should put you guys together because you guys might have some synergies. Well, lo and behold, at that point, I really needed someone to, help me out or at least buy my company from me, because I needed to kind of just move on from there. And it was just so interesting that you look at the universe and how it works, and we're sitting on the tarmac in the airport going to a trade show, a natural trade show in LA.
Uh-huh.
And we're sitting there for 2 hours, and I look across and I start chatting to this person. I didn't know who he was, and all of a sudden we get into the conversation and we connected the dots, and then we just started talking. Mm-hmm. And as we started talking over those 2 hours, we saw the synergies. We were obviously in the same space. We understood what we were doing. And he goes, look, when we get back, let's have a conversation. So we got back, we had a conversation. Fast forward, he purchased my company from me.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it was like, that's what I say, like the stars just aligned at the right time. And so never doubt the stars that are going to line up for you. So and from there on, he said, look, I'm going to buy your company for you, but I want you to come work for me. And I said, okay, no problem. He goes, I'm going to make you VP here so that you can, run the company, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, after a few conversations, he could really see, and I'm not boasting here, but there was a lot of intellectual capital that I had brought forward from all the multinational companies I worked for. And this is on the manufacturing side. His expertise was on the retail side. So, he was a distributor at the end of the day on the supplier side, but he didn't really understand all of the nuances, the little nuances that I knew just coming from where I came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those conversations happened, and I'd say probably 6 months to a year in, he goes, "Look, I'm giving you carte blanche here. I need you to fix this company." Because we were running in the red for the longest time, and the sales are creeping a little bit here and there and everywhere, but it wasn't really, we weren't making big leaps, and we couldn't because we were confined to the amount of profit that we were making. So having known what I knew, I came in and I said, look, okay, if you give me carte blanche, let me go through every single department here, all the enablers. We went to sales, marketing, accounting, ops, all the enablers within the company. And I went through every single department, and I came back with some conclusions as to, there's a lot of leakage happening here. There was just money that was just flowing out, and there was no checks and balances.
Yeah.
So, I will say we were kind of spending like drunken sailors, so to speak, for an old fashioned term. But at the end of the day, we needed to really lock that down and make sure that we were actually saving some money and being more prudent about how the approach to the finances were. And so, we started with just some simple things like processes and procedures that the standard operating procedures, and putting them in place and making sure that everybody is aligned with those procedures. And you know what happens when you make change, right?
Everybody freaks out.
Correct. So the one thing that people don't like is change. And so as we started changing things, you could see the tension building up, that people were wondering, who's the new guy in town and what's going on here. So we lost some people. We did lose some people. We had to move some people out because they were not going to be on board with the changes. So went back to the ownership and said, look, we need to readdress the HR piece of the puzzle here to make sure we're bringing in qualified people that are going to take us on this journey to the next level. And so, simple conversation was, what if we just paid a little bit more? Let's use a professional headhunting outfit that can actually find us that talent. Because in my career, I've always done that. I was using a headhunter to go find employment, and they would, bring me to the employer. And so now I'm the employer, and they're bringing talent to me. And so by doing this, all of a sudden we were able to acquire some really, really talented people. And through that, time, all of a sudden now our business started to change. When that starts to happen, all of a sudden, the culture is impacted. Well, how do we keep the culture intact? Well, I made sure that whatever I did, I tried as hard as I could to put all of the departments together so they all spoke together, because we can change one piece of the puzzle, but if that piece is not understood by why it's happening on the other department, then they're all still working in silos. And this is what I found, is they were all working in silos. And so when I finally, got through, and it was a long process, but at the end of the day, we went through each individual enabler. We got all the process in place, and we got people talking to each other. And when we started to do planning, well, all of a sudden we were bringing all the proper stakeholders into the boardroom to have a holistic discussion about how are we going to take us to the next level. And by doing so, all of a sudden we had this energy, everybody was focused, there was a new attitude, and we were able to grow that company from a negative profit to, and we flipped the profit 100% to a positive profit, and we grew the sales around 17 million to almost $40 million in 4 years.
Wow, that is fantastic. That's a quantum leap.
It is a huge leap, and we got recognized by the industry for being one of the more progressive distributors in Canada, right? And we started to get some really significant listings at Walmart and Loblaws right across the country. So we were in every single distribution channel we could find.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah. I think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to synergy and getting everybody on the right page, because a lot of times that's where we miss the mark. We've got one person doing their own thing, the other person doing their own thing, and there's not a synergy. And to me, the moment that you're able to get everybody in that beautiful kind of harmony, you can really grow and scale fast. Once everyone has a shared vision, I believe it's like the perpetuating of that energy from everybody's shared vision to that one basic goal. To me, that's amazing stuff. Being able to organize that and execute that efficiently.
Yeah, it was an exciting period of time. It was definitely and just a massive learning experience for myself as well. I mean, I've seen it happen. It just never was the instrumental person putting it all together. So this really, puts feathers in your cap and says, you know what? Now that I have that experience, well, how do I, help others do this? So,
with entrepreneurial challenges, what is like your top advice that you would give to entrepreneurs that are dealing in that space right now? Like they're struggling, because I feel like in the beginning when you're first starting something, it takes a while for you to find your niche and find your spot and find your full focus. You never have like the exact part tuned in. The exact part comes along as you start growing, but you have the big vision, but you don't have the little vision as to what it is exactly that foundation is going to look like. But what do you do to help overcome those challenges when you're dealing with entrepreneurs?
That's the $1 million question. Is like where are you in the evolution of your journey? If you're just starting off, at some point, this is the question I asked to Brian Tracy, actually, in my interview with him, was like, at some point, you're going to hit the ceiling of complexity. And there's actually a coach in Canada that actually talks about the ceiling of complexity, because you alone are going to burst at the seams, basically. You're just going to be so busy, you can't even keep up. Because if you are successful and all of a sudden people want what you're providing, being a service or a good or both, you're going to be really busy. And so you're wearing all of your hats as the first person in your company. So my advice at that point, and my business is going through that evolution as well right now. I just started a whole new business here in the financial services space. And I've been doing financial services for nearly a decade, but at the end of the day, at this point in my evolution, I've decided, rather than building a company from the ground up, I had the capacity to purchase. So I purchased a lot of clients, and so I've got a base of clients that I work with. So now, for me, I had the opportunity, because of the scale that I was at already, to hire an assistant.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of people on the team as well now. So, it's a scaling piece. It's at what point do you and are you capable of scaling?
Right.
And when you get scaling, and I've already proven concept on this one too, for my company as well, when I hired my first assistant, I mean, she was so good that where our business, it doubled within a year of her getting onboarded. And I'm experiencing the same thing with my assistant right now, is that by downloading a lot of that administrative work that takes away from what I call IPAs, which is income producing activities.
Yeah.
If you're not focused on income producing activities, you're not focused on your business, because the only thing that's going to drive your business is the top line.
Yes.
So create the income first, and then everything else will take care of itself. So as long as you stay focused on income producing activities and allow the admin piece to move off your plate, all of a sudden you're going to realize that your business is going to balloon. It's going to grow. And then it's okay, where do we scale next? Well, now in the evolution of things, I always look at systems. Mm-hmm. Systems and processes, because if you're going to bring on teams of people, if you're going to bring on people on your team, where you're going to need to put systems and processes in place, right? And that's really how you scale.
Yeah, Mauro, let's take a little break right now. And sure. As soon as we get back, we're going to talk about systems and processes. I'm so excited for this conversation. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to go right now.
Sounds good.
Sublime Knowledge Mindset Coaching offers guaranteed results. 100% of clients reported seeing positive changes in their mindset after just one session. Clients learn to release negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, improving their overall well-being. Create the life you've always envisioned for yourself. Shift your mindset after one session, or your money back, guaranteed. Welcome back to the Success Frequency with Alia Yasmin. We hope you are finding these tools and tips applicable to your own situations in life. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Success Frequency. I've got Mauro on the phone with me today, and we are talking about systems and processes. Mauro, you started to scratch the surface a little bit on this in the last segment. Let's talk a little bit more. What makes an effective system and process?
It really depends on what your business is. So there's many different types of systems and processes out there that will be aligned with what you're selling. But at the end of the day, we're all selling something, right? Be it a service, be it a product. And there's, today with the internet, I'm old school. I'm not a young person. And so we never had the internet back in the day. And when I was a youngster and now, the ability to actually even just lock onto something that you may not even have to pay for initially until you get actually up and running is there's so much opportunity in terms of getting those things up and running right away. So, you look at things like, do I have a CRM tool to manage my client base? That's really, when you really look at what's the assets of a company, well, the number one thing is who is your customer? Because without your customer, you really have nothing. So let's manage those customers in a proper CRM tool, right? Then as we start to look more finite into the business, well, if you do have an accounting department or you have an accounting software, well, do you have the right software? Do you have the right accountant? Not everybody's made the same, and so we need to. I always advise in my business is let's get the right advisors at the table for the right client,
That's
right?
true.
And so if I'm looking at legal counsel, I'm looking at accountants who are on my team, I'm going to have the right support. I want them to intimately understand what I'm bringing to the table for my clients, and they're going to help me just round up the holistic approach for my clients in my financial services business right now. If you're selling, a widget or some sort, and widget I use loosely as a term just because it's an economic term, but at the end of the day, that widget that you're selling there is going to be some sort of software or some sort of technology out there that's going to be able to control your business and be able to give you some data and some information. So, but I always caution, if you don't put good data in, you're not going to get good data out.
That's very true. Let me
So
ask you this question: who is your ideal client?
for my financial services business right now, the ideal client for my financial services business is a successful, savvy entrepreneur right now is the ideal client for me. I've gotten a lot of education through, obviously, my own entrepreneurial journeys, but then I've also educated myself a lot more in terms of a lot of more sophisticated and advanced planning strategies. So when I sit with an entrepreneur, I come with a different approach and a different angle in terms of I resonate and understand with the entrepreneur's journey. It really doesn't matter what industry or what sector you're in. I understand your trials and tribulations already. So can I give advice? 100% I can give advice on the internal workings of the company if you want to hire me for that kind of role. Yeah. The other role is, well, as you as an individual, you as the captain of the ship or the president and director of that company, you might have a team of 5, you might have a team of 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or whatever the number is. At the end of the day, you as the individual, if you're the owner of the company or you have a partner in this company, and I'm talking corporately right now, not partnerships, when you're talking corporately, well, there's 2 pieces to the puzzle. I'll always say, and I've got clients like this, and I'll sit with a client and I'll go, okay, so let's gather information on you as a person. Mm-hmm. So I start gathering the information, and I call it their financial statement, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at the business in isolation as well, and I see the drastic comparison between the two, and saying, okay, so when you had this dream that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and you wanted to make a difference, or you wanted to do something that you said, okay, I have the capacity to do this. This is what I want to do. It's my passion. And let's hope it is your passion. Well, when you took on this journey, did you have any feeling that if I do this, there's going to be a reward at the end of the day for me?
Yeah.
Because all of us entrepreneurs, we get into the business, and guess who gets paid last?
Entrepreneurs do. I mean, you're investing, and like you said earlier, like a drunk sailor.
You're spending.
You're spending,
and you're out there. So you're and you need these folks on your team. So in order to keep them employed, you have to pay them.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's other costs obviously involved in having an organization and a company. Well, at the end of when I look at savvy entrepreneurs and I see so much vested in the company, and I say, listen, there's our mechanisms, there are tools that I have that we can put in place that we can start taking this money out of that company, being an operating company in most cases, and we would put together a structure potentially with a holding company, and now we're going to move monies between the companies, and we're going to have other tools like insurance vehicles where we're going to put that money away for you personally for your retirement, or we can also use that money if you wanted to actually scale your business even more. You can actually use it within your company. So it's a fine balance between, okay, well, we're running this company and we got a lot of stuff invested. And yes, you got to have CapEx. You got to have CapEx in your company. You got to recapitalize and always put money back in your company to grow it. But at the end of the day, if there's still retained earnings left on the table, we need to get those retained earnings out and for you, because that's the whole purpose of being an entrepreneur. At the end of the day, it's got to be rewarding for you. And I see so many entrepreneurs, they've got this baby And I look at the Shark Tank and I see so many people hanging on to small percentages and they're fighting over 5% or 10% or whatever. And I'm like, okay, if you're beginning your journey in entrepreneurship and you have the chance to have a seasoned shark on your team and you're arguing over 5%,
Yeah.
I would say, let it go. Yeah. You yourself will not grow that business as fast as a shark will help you.
Yeah.
And so seek the advice of those professionals and allow them into your business, because at the end of the day, that baby that you're hoping is going to be a retirement package, well, let's hope that during your journey, there isn't a change in technology, there isn't a change in the industry, somebody doesn't come and buy you out or compete against you that's going to close your doors at the end of the day. And all of a sudden that baby you were hoping to be a retirement plan is washed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So during your journey, you must always pull out whatever retained earnings you can, put them away for you and your family, because that was the whole idea of why you got into entrepreneurship. Then we leave the company and let's just keep building that company up and doing what it has to do, right?
Yeah. That's very interesting the way that you presented that, because I think to myself and I'm like, what sets you apart from scaling that business? What sets you apart from being able to step back, have a little bit more time freedom in your life, and still be able to have a good balance going between it being successful and you still having the time freedom? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into this idea of owning their own business and for time freedom. Like they want to get to that point where, they can spend time with family or whatever the case is, and they want to execute the vision that they have for the brand or the business at the same time. But life does change. And when those changes happen, it's good to have that type of insurance in place,
100%.
So what services do you provide entrepreneurs to scale their business? Like, what exactly are you able to give them to scale? What advice?
If they brought me into the boardroom and when we sat down, I'd want to see their P&L first. I just want to see their profit and loss statements and their balance sheets, because at the end of the day, this is what we're chasing the nut, right? And we're chasing that number all the time. It's like, well, where are you sitting? Are you sitting profitably? Are you not sitting profitably? And what are your challenges? And let's address those challenges within the company. But we start with the numbers first, then we'll analyze the numbers. Once I got those analytical numbers, then I can look at, let's look at each department and are they running efficiently?
Yeah.
And are they talking to each other or sitting in silos? And, through those investigation pieces, we can find out really quickly what's not happening, what's holding this company back from taking itself to the next level. And sometimes, admittedly, at the end of the day, myself too, you're in the way. You don't see it because you're the one driving the boat, but you don't realize that the blocks you've put up in front of yourself could be just your mindset, your attitude, right? And maybe you just need an attitudinal change, and you need someone to say to you honestly. And the thing about entrepreneurs is you have to be an open book. You have to understand that you need to be, and I'm not saying criticize, but you need to be constructively told in some way, shape, or form. Is like, here's where your weaknesses are. Let's not work on your weaknesses. Let's just get those weaknesses out of the way. And if that's a weakness for you, move it on to somebody else who's really good at it.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs need a certain level of introspection, because the moment that you present something to them, they need to be able to say, okay, let me open up my awareness. Is this something that I need to work on? I think there has to be that. I think that's what makes them successful, is the ability to take that criticism and run with it and say, okay, this person says this, and you may, and sometimes that criticism might be great criticism, and sometimes it might not be. It might just be like stemming from something that's not positive, but it's analyzing that. Introspection is like the secret to doing that, is really reflecting upon yourself and saying, am I holding this back? How much more can it grow? Like I listen to Ryan Dorian sometimes on YouTube, and he's got some phenomenal content out there. He talks about flow, but one of the big things that he talked about was the mind of Elon Musk. And the way that he looks at it is that he looks at interplanetary, you know, human species living on multiple planets. Like the way that his vision is, it's insane because when you really put that into perspective, like we're sitting as limited as our awareness is. That's where we're sitting in the plane of what we can accomplish.
Correct.
As much as you are able to open up your awareness, and I mean even bringing it back to relationships not working out, sometimes one person's just not aware of the growth potential, and
Mm-hmm.
the other person is. I've experienced that in my life. Like I feel like I was aware of the growth potential, but I was in a relationship that wasn't aware of the growth potential.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for that reason, you find people, they just kind of split and they go in different directions. But I also think that sometimes those people come in for a purpose and then they leave, at a certain point. So, all of this is just, it's very helpful being able to do that introspection and being able to adjust your mindset and be open and be flexible and listen to criticism and grow and scale and be able to always be able to sit in a different seat looking at yourself, looking at your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know this is your strength. So I'm glad you articulated very well on that, because that's 100% true. And at the end of the day, the mindset of when you go through life, and I don't know if it's a fact of, if you just get older and you realize, wow, all that stuff that I did, or those challenges that I thought were just, why me?
Yeah.
It's funny how when you look in retrospect and you say, that was done for me.
Absolutely.
So I was put into a situation, whether I did it myself or it came to me.
Yeah.
You really got to look at it as that was done for me, because I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah.
To be able to sit with you and do this podcast and actually talk from an experienced position to say, you know what, I had some trials and tribulations, but through those trials and tribulations, I actually embraced the experiences, positive or negative.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to bring those experiences to other people to help them scale or get to a better place in their business or personally, right? And so doing this new business that I'm in terms of financial services, it is such a rewarding business, because I was in the business of just selling product.
Yeah.
And so I'm always behind the brand and reinforcing the brand and making sure that people understood the value and the proposition of all the brands. But now that I sit with people, I am the brand.
Yes.
And when I speak with people, I know that even if the client doesn't engage with me in terms of having a product put in place for the betterment of their life, I know as soon as they walk out the door, I'm an educator first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because when I sit down with a client, I will educate just by saying certain things and going through their financial statements or whatever we're pulling together in terms of knowing the client and knowing all the information about the client. I'm going through that, collecting information, and through that dialogue, I'm going to be mentioning things. And then I also teach some valuable concepts.
Yeah.
And they walk out the door and they might talk to somebody and go, hey, did you know what the rule of 72 is? I mean, that's a weak example, but there is a rule of 72, and that's just, they walk out the door going, wow, I know something different. Right. And then with sophisticated entrepreneurs, we get the whole other level. I mean, they're going to learn stuff that they probably don't know, what they don't know.
Yeah. It's so necessary to always be in a space of learning. It's so necessary.
100%.
We're getting ready for another break, and we'll come back. We'll chat a little bit more about what other things we can learn from you today. You're so knowledgeable. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
I will power here. Success isn't for everyone. It demands focus, discipline, and strategy. Introducing the OWLS method, designed for those who take their goals seriously. O. Become the observer of your thoughts and feelings. Analyze them. Become aware of your emotions and beliefs. Only then can you master your mind. W. You should write down your goals, every detail, every step, and write the thoughts and affirmations that will drive you relentlessly toward them. L. Listen. Fill your mind only with knowledge that will move you to your goal. Write affirmations that fuel your ambition. No distractions. No compromise. S. Speak with certainty. Your words reflect your beliefs. When you speak, it's not a possibility, it's an inevitability. It's confidence. Observe, write, listen, and speak. The Owl's Method. Master your thoughts. Conquer your goals.
Welcome back to the Success Frequency with Alia Yasmin. We hope you are finding these tools and tips applicable to your own situations in life. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Success Frequency. I'm here chatting with Mauro. Mauro has accomplished a lot. He's an experienced financial planner, sharing some of his wisdom, his ups, his downs, his advice to young entrepreneurs. And I want to know what your coaching space looks like, Mauro. Share with us a little bit about what your coaching space. How do you guide them? What do you do? What's the most important thing to you?
Oh, coaching. It's a bit of a broad theme about coaching because everybody has a different way of receiving information, and so when you're coaching folks, you really need to understand what's important to them. And there's other literature out there, and I've heard other podcasts and things where it's so important that as a coach and as a leader, you need to really embrace the fact that not everybody is the same. Everybody, yes, is on the same ship, but everybody has a different function, and they all have a different way of approaching life. So, one person might be interested in title, the other person interested in more money, the other person interested in being more artistic, creative. Somebody just likes to be appraised for what they do. And so you need to really understand, and you get doing that by going to talk to each individual person. And when you're talking to people, who should be talking? The person that you're receiving the information from, not you. So, asking some questions, being personal, being polite, being nice to people, and respectful, and not intimidating.
Right.
Brings that coach into the equation that says, you know what, I'm here to support you any way I possibly can. And then listen to what their needs are and digest that so that you understand for each individual in the organization, how are you going to treat that person? Because if you know what's important to them, they're going to be on board with you.
Absolutely.
They're going to be on your mission because they understand and they believe in you. They trust you. You have integrity. And those are the folks that are going to be with you for the long term.
Yes. 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
Yeah. And the old saying is when people leave companies, they don't leave the company, they leave leadership. Because they're obviously not in a space that is for them personally. So they go try to find greener pastures somewhere else. Now, we all make mistakes in our life trying to assume there's greener pastures elsewhere. But if you have a good leader, rarely do they have a turnover.
Yeah, that's very true. What builds trust with you and your clients? Like, what's a good trust building?
There's many things. So with my practice right now, it's so vitally important that I meet with a client face to face. We've got all sorts of technology today, and it's nice to do these Zooms and meetings and so on and so forth. It provides an extra element of, hey, can we just hop on a Zoom and just talk real quick? But what I don't see is the other nuances in a relationship, which is are we on the same page in terms of our energies, right?
Oh, very important.
And right, it is important because if my energy is not right for you or vice versa, it's going to be really difficult for me to help. Right. My whole goal is now to help people because that's the business I'm in. I help and change people's lives for the positive and for the better, just having all the financial tools that I have. And so being personal with people. Now, when you do that and you gather information, well, you're gathering very private information. You are more probably, and I always say this, I said, people would rather tell you they got cancer than how many pennies they have in the bank.
That's very
It's such an interesting dynamic of human beings,
yeah.
because we measure our success based on how many pennies we have in the bank. And that to me is the wrong way to look at it. For me, success, I have two beautiful children, and I'm so blessed to have these kids, and they're doing so well with their lives that, to me, I said, you know what? Was I the perfect dad? No, nobody's the perfect parent. It is the hardest role you'll ever take on. But my success is the fact that I've got two independent children who are doing successful things for their own selves, and they're following their heart and their passion. So as long as your gut and your heart are aligned, you're golden in your life, and you keep doing that.
I think a lot of parents don't realize the importance of setting your child's mindset up. Like
100%.
get that child to be able to think for themselves. Like that's the most important thing you can teach your child is mindset. Right. You know, there's nothing else that's more valuable to them. If they have the ability to be resilient and bounce back through any type of situation, they're going to encounter a ton of downfall and a ton of mistakes and a ton of everything. That's just a part of growing. But the faster that they have that bounce back mechanism built within their mindset, then that's the determining factor as to who thrives and who survives.
100%. Yeah. And
some don't even survive. They barely survive.
Yeah, I had an uncle actually in Italy who's actually in the medical space, and he told me and ingrained in me one time. He says, "Look, if you have children," he says, "the first 10 years are the most important and formative years
absolutely
of who they will be in their teenage life, and then beyond that." Mm-hmm. So he says you need to make sure that the most attention you pay with your children, and you can never give enough love, by the way, to your children. You can never give enough love. They are just a flower absorbing it all. So anything negative that comes out to you, don't forget the negativity will now make that flower collapse. Yep. So the more love you give to your child, and especially in the formative years, because they're always attached to you, that is so important. Once they're 10 years old, and he said that the mind is now mature, and now it's mature enough to start embracing all those, technical jargon and all those complicated formulas and things like that they start to experience in high school, that they're starting to get into advanced education.
Yeah.
And I always embraced that when my uncle told me that, and then I had my children. I tried to do as best I could to do that, to reinforce that in them.
That's a testament. The fact that they can demonstrate that, in life, I think that's where the testament is, because developing mindset at a young age will wire them correctly. I never had that. I never had somebody helping me with mindset development at a young age. And if I could be able to give that level of advice to parents out there, is start young. Start as early as possible, and teach them resilience, and teach them it's okay to fail, and teach them you just continue, keep pushing forward with effort. And
you hit right what I was going to say, which was I'm not excluding the fact that you need to discipline your children, because obviously they don't know right from wrong. Right. And you're teaching them these principles. And there's Gary Vee. I watch Gary Vee sometimes, and it's so funny. He says, "Look, let's stop with the trophies. Kids need to learn how to lose. And you know what happens when kids lose? They learn how to overcome those challenges, and they go, okay, let's not do that again." Right. And guess what happens to entrepreneurs when they start to get into their journey? Well, they're going to lose sometimes. Entrepreneurs who have failed are the most successful, right?
They're guaranteed some level of failure. Failure just comes along. Like if I was to look collectively, like at all the times I failed, I collected a bunch of failures. I may not talk about it much because I de-escalate the emotional charge attached to it. So some of them I don't even remember because I just choose.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I racked them up along the way, and the better I got at collecting those failures, the faster I could overcome it, the faster I could push forward, the faster I stayed more focused, the more I did, I said, okay, well, if I'm capable enough to handle this failure, I'm capable enough to handle a bigger failure. Let's chase after.
Well, and that's right. It builds on itself, right? You go, okay, well, and the old saying is like, go smell the flowers and don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly.
Don't sweat the small stuff. At the end of the day, you'll realize through experience is, why did I even worry about that at all? And this whole thing about anxiety today is, well, get off your phone. I just you got to look up and get out and socialize. And it's, technology is great. I grew up in the age of the 80s where, we had no cell phone. We were socializing. Mom and dad didn't know where the heck we were. They just said, make sure you're getting home at such and such a time, or else there were consequences.
Yeah.
And so, today with the anxiety and everything like that, it's like we just have to get back to being human beings and talking to each other and enjoying socializing more. And that just,
People are too much in their head over the physical world, I think, and not enough in their head about how they can impact the physical world. So they're immersed in the physical world. This happened to me, that happened to me, that happened to me. And they're not in their head of like, okay, that happened to me. That's cool. But how can I turn that into a success story? Like, how can I convert that over to a success story? Yeah, it happened. No big deal. Worse things have happened. And there's always a spectrum. I share that with my clients all the time. There's always a spectrum. When you think you've experienced something bad, there's somebody out there that's experienced something worse.
100%.
When you think you've experienced something good, know that there's also somebody out there experiencing something even better. So strive for the better, continuously move along that spectrum.
And 100%. And I'm saying that to when I consult people, and even children, and whoever I'm talking to, says, well, who's your hero? Sylvester Stallone is one of my heroes. And his famous line is, no matter how hard you get punched down and beat up, he says, it doesn't matter. It's your ability to get back up and keep moving forward. And then who is your hero? Who are those people that are putting positive, reinforcing things into your mind? And so many people move and listen to negative things because it's attractive, and it's I don't know what it is, honestly, because you watch the news, it's all negative news. And so that's just drawing people's psyche down to believe that we should all be paranoid and scared.
Yeah, I pay attention to the words that they use. They use words to ignite.
Correct. That's right. And it's all advertising driven, by the way. I mean, you follow the money. The newscasts call themselves a show. Well, if they call themselves a show and they have advertising, that means they want your attention. And what creates more attention is the negative news, right? Because you're curious. So I just stop watching the news altogether. Now, I watch the news just to stay informed. However, I don't let the negativity get to me, because I want to make sure that I'm following people that are going to add value to my life. And I want to follow people that are better than me.
Yep.
I want to listen to people that have done it worse than me, like have even worse, difficulties than me. And I want to learn from their experiences, because I know they've taken it to a whole other level that I want to achieve. Just get it a little bit ahead of where I'm at right now. And maybe there's something in what they said positively that I will embrace from a mindset perspective and apply to my business.
Yeah, in life, I think there's two spectrums. You're either the creator or you're the consumer. And if
Right.
Well, more people understood that, then they understand, like, if you're the consumer, it means somebody else has created stuff for you and you're just in consumption mode. Consumption mode always makes us feel guilty and ashamed.
That's
It never is. If we're sitting there and we're scrolling through Instagram and 2 hours of our life is gone through scrolling Instagram, like, guilty, you're going to feel shame because you've done nothing with those 2 hours.
Correct.
If you were in creative mode, all of a sudden you have a ton of energy because you're like, oh my gosh, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it's like such a good feeling that resonates through you.
And if I could just take this opportunity to selfishly promote my book that you and I have obviously co-authored with Brian Tracy, is if you're reading the Winning Strategies for Success book, there are, and I'm sorry you can't see it very well here, but at the end of the day, this book that you can find on my website too, and I know you've got one too, Alia, but there's co-authors in here with us who have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of information to share with anybody who's listening right now, that I encourage you to pick up a book and read something every single night. If it's not this book, read something every single night to put those positive reinforcing thoughts in your head, and the words that you're reading will help you articulate better when you're speaking as well.
Yeah.
And let's get back to basics, which is basically read a chapter a night. It really doesn't take a lot, but let's read a chapter a night rather than consuming the social media stuff that really is not adding value to our lives unless you're watching something is your hero.
Something to help you grow and expand. What I love about those books, including yours and mine, and just the series that Brian's done, those books bring different experts in their area of expertise. So you're able to pivot from one state of mind into another state of mind, into another state of mind, and it's all collectively in one book. To me, there's a lot of power in that, and I love the concept behind it, because so many things that somebody else is going to bring to the table, you'll be able to shift just a little bit. You shift. It's an opening up awareness book. The way that I see the series of books is that they're all open up your awareness to different areas of your business, different areas of success, different areas, different strategies, different ways to win. And better we get at that, the more fantastic it is. Share with our listeners, how can they reach you?
So again, back to my website. So campagnarowealth.ca. So it's CAMPAGNARO wealth.ca. If you go there, you can contact me through my website. I think that's just the easiest way to get a hold of me. And yeah, there's the contact me button in there that you can book an appointment with me, or you can actually just send a message.
That's wonderful. Everybody, Sublime Knowledge has our retreat coming up in July. It is going to be a phenomenal retreat where we're addressing emotional intelligence. We're addressing duality and how to think, how to catch those thoughts before they run wild. And I look forward to having guests there. And I am available on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Sublime Knowledge. Just check us out. And thank you so much, Mauro, for being on the show. It was a fantastic show. I appreciate everything you brought to the table today.
And thank you, Alia. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Success Frequency with Alia Yasmin. We hope you've learned something that can help you achieve your goals this month. Tune in next week for another inspiring episode. Until then, have a beautiful month.